It is Wednesday of the trial. Joseph Astorita continued on the stand today. He went over his qualifications a little bit as he began his day. They talked about the notice that they had received to go to Burns. It was shortly after the occupation of Malheur. They received an email saying that they needed to head to Boise. So he was out there for quite some time and doing the rotation with the other officers as he testified. It was interesting. He goes over all of what happened, who he was with, which teams they were on, and which members were on each teams. Then the defense goes through the video and frame by frame in certain seconds. They go over different spots on there. He gives testimony from one picture to another. It's very interesting to watch the defense calculate going through that and how they're saying, okay, can you recognize this person here? And he goes, no. Is that you? I can't. I don't know who it is. And they go through trying to discredit all the previous testimony from all the other officers who were each of those officers testified separately without listening to each other's testimonies and had similar responses of where they were and who was next to them. But he was uncertain of a lot of things. Let me just put it that way. His favorite things to say were, I just don't recall, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know where or when that happened. I thought to myself, wow, for somebody who is so highly trained and goes through so much training, do they do anything with your memory? I just was thinking, why are you hired by the FBI if you can't remember or recall or know what you were doing and when you were doing it? Because I think they do train you to be able to recall. You just don't nilly-willy go out there, right? So he went over his NUTS training, the vigorous training that it is, combat swimming, and he was very methodical about it. He talked about his surgical shooting. He talked about close quarters battle. He talked about situational awareness. And this is where I thought, okay, if you're trained to have situational awareness, why is it that every answer to every question is, I don't recall, I don't know, I don't remember? And so it just kind of got old. And I don't know if the jury was feeling that, but I know I was. But I'm personally involved, so sometimes that's hard when you're personally involved to be objective, right? But as I was talking to some of the people, they kind of were thinking the same thing. It was as if he was conveniently not remembering what he should be remembering. So as he continued, he was crossed. I'm going to just flip through my notes here. Going through the videos was long and painstaking. We went to lunch. We came back. The defense was still on. Later on in that day, then finally in this day, I'm misspeaking, sorry. Later on in the afternoon, the prosecution took over the questioning, and it was very interesting to see their technique and how they went about it. Then they rested. And then, you know, how they go back and forth, and the prosecution was able to recall Mr. Terpster, because the defense's expert witness had, you know, said that Terpster's model was not accurate. And so Toby Terpster got back on the stand, and they were able to correct the things that Mr. Lucilio testified to about his model. And it sounds to me from Mr. Terpster's testimony that the defense's expert was not taking into account that Terpster's model was only going over 2 seconds of time. He did over 73 separate images within a 2-second time frame. Those 2 seconds include the shot that hits the roof of my husband's truck, which is in dispute. It's one of the shots unaccounted for. He had 73 images in that 2 seconds from 2 separate planes. And so they camera matched them, and they were able to put all of the sequences together and match everything up exactly. And so it was really good to get him back on the stand to kind of debunk everything the defense's expert witness said in reference to his model. It was quite striking to hear his testimony, and for the jury to look at that evidence one last time before both sides rested. So yes, it is over for today, and tomorrow we resume with the closing arguments for both sides, and then the jury instructions from the judge, and then the jury is going to be in charge of going over this case, and so we will see what will happen. But I think it's been very convenient that some of the officers on his particular team, the FBI HURT team, testified and left reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors by saying, well,